Right, Paul, we're one day from the start of the new season. A lot of people have been asking me how the season ticket sales are going, because obviously you had 2 brilliant seasons, playoffs. Have they been affected much by finishing 17th? Are they down, or is it pretty much held up?
Yeah, no, they are down. I think we the early bird discount, we finished at a little over 800, and I think we were on around about 1200 last year. So that was quite a significant drop. But I think they have picked up, and we're on up to about 1,000 now, and I'm pretty happy. I mean, obviously I'd be happy if we sold more. But you know, we did have an awful season, particularly at home. And when I was, when Mark and I were in the office calling season ticket holders up, there were some very genuine reasons why people weren't renewing. Job changes, family situations, income, and also quite a few people were generally not doing it because they'd seen some pretty poor football. They weren't being entertained, and frankly, we shouldn't expect people just to renew because they're loyal fans. Obviously, lots do, which is great. But we need to make sure A, we're giving value for money, and B, we're giving entertainment. And I think we've done that in previous years, and we didn't do it last year. And it's like in politics. If you don't deliver, you get a kick at the backside, and we've got a kick at the backside. But I think we've listened, and I think Mark is clearly aware, A, from the experience he had on the phone, and B, from general reactions from fans about last year, that we've really got to entertain, particularly at home. So I'm hoping that we're going to see much more exciting formations and performances and goals at home. Time will tell, of course. But yeah, so we're up to 1,000. Obviously, still time for people to renew. And the point about the season ticket holder is season ticket is still a very good deal. And if you are a regular Cheltenham Town fan, you're going to get 6-7 games for nothing. You get priority for cup matches. You're going to have your seat there. So it's still a very good deal. And season ticket holders are still a very important part of the club, the major stakeholder. And I like to think that we treat them properly, and I do want to do a little bit more season ticket engagement this year. We did have the special thing down at the open day where they came along earlier than the other fans. They have the ticket priorities, and perhaps we can do a couple of events this year for season ticket holders, or at least where season ticket holders can get a discount on the normal price. So very important to us. Thank you to the 1,000 or so who have renewed. To those who haven't or are thinking about it, please, there's still time to do it. And we'll see where we go.
Yeah, it's often said you learn more when things aren't going well than you do when everything's going smoothly. And like you said, it was a difficult season for a few reasons, but changes have been made. And what do you think the main things you've learned to help this season be a lot better than it was last season?
I think we've made some changes to the management team, which is obviously people are well aware of in terms of names. But I think we've also we strengthened that team in terms of the number of people now. Obviously we've got a player coach as well as a first team coach, so we've got more coaching capacity. We've changed our scouting system now. We've got a video analyst. In fact, video analyst is virtually full time with us now. Really good guy, so we'll be relying much more on our own in-house technical coverage of matches, enabling us to analyse better our own performances as well as opposition performances. We've got the setup down at Seasons is fantastic now for a club at Football League 2 level, in terms of we've got a dedicated room for video and technical work. We've got a fantastic second to none gym, and as well as an environment down there where I want players to be arriving early, engaging, playing pool, getting out there and coaching and being coached and practicing, and staying on after lunch and stuff like that, and staying on in the afternoon. So we didn't have that last year. I got a feeling last year that people didn't particularly want to be down there. They perhaps arrived when they needed to arrive and went as soon as they could. And this year I want to see people there in the afternoons, and I see it far more engaging. And I want to see a playing squad which is much more engaging. And I've talked a lot about engagement, but it is really important to me. And I've stressed to the players and the management team that we must engage with our customers. It's a no-brainer that any business does not engage with its customers. And I think the players really do get that. But I want to see it in action this year. And we saw it at the open day. And if it needs drumming in, then we need to drum it in and drum it in. But we want them going on to schools, we want them going along to events like they did in the arcade, and they were great. We had 3 or 4 players going along to the arcade. Troy Brown and a couple of others went down there. Smiley, and that's what I want. I don't want people down there under sufferance. What the hell am I doing here? I want players down there because they are proud and good ambassadors for the football club. Going back to how we always used to be, we had lots of players who were very engaging and managers who were very engaging, and I think we need to go back to that because Cheltenham isn't like Bradford or these other well-established clubs. We need to work really, really hard to engage with our community and get them to come and support their local club. So we need to do more than other teams do, and I think the players buy into that. So that's going to be a change of mindset, I think, from the players, and hopefully fans will see that and fans will respond accordingly, and perhaps more will get behind the team. I want to get rid of this small element who just seem to be negative, come what may. I understand people can be critical, but let's temper that with a degree of acceptance as to the budgets we're working within, the constraints that we're working in, and actually we are still one of 72 Football League clubs. It's our 16th season in Football League 2. It's a hell of an achievement, so let's get behind the players. I don't want to see the season kicking off with criticism, from the very first game. They've all got to work together and support their team, and really, really we've got to stress that. But the players need to do their bit too.
Okay. How there's 9 new signings so far, biggest change for a few years.
Yeah.
Probably a couple more, 2 or 3 more to come, as Mark said. So, what are your views on the players that he's brought in, and how does the budget compare to this time last year?
Yeah, the budget is at the moment it's on par with where we started last year. But last year we spent over £100,000, I think, on loan players. So this year there's going to be far less dependence on loan players. Certainly, players come in for short-term loans, come in, going. I mean, obviously it's worse under some managers than it was under Mark. But that's why we've got the young players on board now. I want to see them filling the substitutes bench more than loan players. We did some analysis on those loan players, and of that money that was spent, we got 3 goals out of it. And about 70 appearances. I mean, it's a lot of money to spend because you got all the accommodation, you got the travel, and do they buy into it? And then of course David Noble was injured for a long period of time. So I think in terms of the squad, what do I think? Obviously we've lost some big names, like Jamie Curriton last year. Huge expectation when we signed Jamie McGlashan, But I think if you look back at those two, particularly what their contribution was to the team last year, okay, there's injuries and stuff thrown in there, but pretty marginal contributions for players who we thought were going to be big hitters. So when I see clubs signing names, actually I don't get too excited about it. What I want and what I think we've got this year is going back to what we had under Cottrell and Ward, which was a team of not individuals, a team where it's a team ethic. We haven't got any big egos in there. I think they've really all knuckled down. I think they really get on together. That's the feeling I'm getting, and that's when I'm chatting to players. That's the feeling I'm getting too. So I think we should have a much more collective team than we've had many years ago, in the last couple of years, certainly the last season. And that's not being critical necessarily of what happened last season. It's a fact that when you sign players, you don't necessarily know how they're going to get on, how they're going to react. And obviously we had a few issues with certain players, but I think now we've got a good squad. No one's getting excited about the signing, and I get that. I can't say that I've been really excited about any of the signings, but having seen what I've seen in pre-season, I think there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of young players who want to prove themselves, but there's a lot of older players who are having another chance of playing in the Football League, or their first chance of playing in the Football League. And what we want is hungry players, and players who aren't on long contracts, players who really got to do it this season because they've only got a year on their contract. So I think it's good to have hungry players, good to have players who are going up in their careers rather than coming down in their careers. And so I think the mix is right. We've got some good experienced players in there, and we've got some very exciting young players on there. And for the younger players, But then a lot of those younger players, this is a big season for them. The big step up from youth team football and stuff like that to playing in Football League 2. It's a big step up, and they have to do a lot of work with coaches in the gym to build themselves up to be able to deal with professional Football League football. So I would just say to the fans, yeah, I get like we're saying, possibly disappointed that one of the two players that have gone. We've missed out on some players that we wanted to sign. I won't tell you the names, but there were players out there we wanted to sign. Obviously, we know about the Tottenham lad who went to Southend, but there's been other players we missed out on too. The lad who went from Kidderminster to Shrewsbury, the fullback, and we have lost players. But that's what happens in football. I think Mark's pretty comfortable with the squad he's got. I think we have to trust our manager and we have to trust our coaches that they've got together the right squad. Mark's always been pretty good on recruitment. I think fans will. The jury is out. Let's say the jury is out because we don't know how it's going to blend. We don't know how it's going to pan out. But I haven't said to Mark there's this huge expectation about automatic promotion, because there isn't. We have to be realistic. We want to do better than last year. Without question, we don't want to be looking over our shoulders. We want to be looking up the league. We want to prove all the pundits who said we're going to be in the bottom 3 or 4 wrong. But let's face it, we've had that for the last, in fact, the first 10 years we were in League 2. We were always the favourites to get relegated, and we never did. So take that with a pinch of salt. Importantly, we're operating within a very, very strict financial structure. And I think what fans do want to know is that the club is being well managed, and hopefully the club will be here not just for the season but for the season after. And that is no small feat. I tell you, I can't tell you what a challenge it is to running a Football League 2 club. I have streets already about this season because games are going to be very, very important. And if we don't have a good season, we know the games will suffer again. And so I worry now about it, which is why we've had to be very, very sensible in the budget that we've set, Mark. We can always increase it, but it's very, very difficult to reduce a budget once you've set it. So we have gone in with what we've gone in. If we can get a good start, we can get a result at Brighton. Who knows? Obviously that should be a good gate. That will help. But if we can get a result on Brighton and kick on in the Capital Cup, that'd be fantastic. The big thing as ever will be the FA Cup. That is massive for us. Huge disappointment last year, which I don't think we recovered from in many ways. So that'll be important for us this year. But no, I'm sort of not really sure what to expect. It's probably the first time I felt like this for quite a long time. But actually, it's probably better to feel that than have a huge expectation which is going to be dampened. And I had quite a lot of expectation last year, as did the fans, because we'd gone playoffs, and there was a huge expectation we would push on. And I felt with the squad we put together that we would, and we didn't. So hopefully, Mark's got rid of the players that he didn't feel had a future at Cheltenham Town, and we've bought players who want to be here. And I don't want players who don't want to be here. And I just get the feeling all the ones who are here want to be here and see it as a great opportunity to further their careers.
Yeah, on the subject of Mark, how pivotal, every season's big for a manager, because a few results here or there can change very quickly, but do you think this is potentially career-defining season for Mark?
Well, as you say, every season is probably. There was a certain amount of speculation and calls from fans that Mark shouldn't have been kept on. But I live and the board will live and die by the decisions we make. We get them right, we get them wrong. We've made a lot of poor appointments and poor decisions. Of course we have. But I think generally speaking, over the time of the last 20 years, we get things right more often than we get things wrong. Is it a pivotal season? Well, it is a pivotal season for Mark because he's only got a year on his contract. So he hasn't got that automatic expectation. He's got another year to come. There's nothing in the contract says that if you finish a certain position, you're going to get another year automatically offered. So the jury is well and truly out. Mark needs to perform well this year. Because to earn another contract with the football club, but B, in terms of his CV. Now he's now one of the top qualified managers in the country, as is Sean. So you can't say that we haven't got a very, very experienced and talented in terms of coaching ability and management team, because we have. Okay, he's operating within a tight budget, but then a lot of managers are, and a lot of clubs in Football League 1 and Football League 2. So Mark's got to prove that he's better than average, and a lot better than average. And I think if you look at his record with Cheltenham Town, he was certainly deserving of an opportunity for another crack of the whip. So we've honoured his contract, and here he is now in the last year of his current contract. I've got a lot of time for Mark. Clearly, we have a good relationship. I respect what he's done for the club as a player, as a captain, and as a manager. There are a lot of things that were going on last year which I think were a distraction. That's gone, and I think now Mark is really looking forward to the challenge ahead. I detect a different Mark Yates to the one I was talking to last year. I think Sean North will be a really good acquisition. I think bringing Stevie Elliott as player coach, those two appointments will give Mark a little bit more breathing space, a little bit more people to talk to and advice. We're bringing in other people behind the scenes as well, looking at things like sports psychology, looking at team bonding and all that sort of stuff, because it's all very well, and we spend lots of money on making sure our players are physically fit. It's equally important to make sure your players are mentally fit and up for the chance too. So we are spending a little bit of money on that area of player development. So I think the players really have got every opportunity. I think with the support of the management team and the facilities we've got at the seasons, they have everything going for them now to really cook on and show that they can be good players in a successful team.
Just on the remaining signings, say there's no cup run in Brighton. What scope is it? Are you expecting the last two signings to be? Because Mark's trying to get, I know he's got to get the best thing he can with the money he's got. He wants players to go straight into the team. Is there scope, if he can persuade you that it's the right plan for him to bring in key players?
There is some money available, but he's after a player who was with the League One club this week. Very, very good player. Not going to feature with this team this year. Player at Peterborough. I had a phone call from Barry Fry. Quite keen to do the deal, and they wanted £1,500 a week from him, and they wanted to sign him for a season-long loan. Now, please don't speculate about who it is, because this is just what we're up against in terms of we want to bring players who will go straight into that first team. I don't want to be bringing in players, nor does Mark now. We're just going to sit on the bench. We already alluded to the fact we spent £100,000 on loan players last year. We can't afford to do that. We have to make sure that if we are going to bring them in, they are not going to be sitting on the bench, they are going to be playing. We can't spend that sort of money on bringing in somebody. So it's a question of, as Mark said, things will settle down now. Once the season gets underway, managers will sort of formulate who's in their team, who's not in their team. Players will become available. Teams will be keen to get players who aren't featuring off their wage bills in the same way that we will be. We will have players available for loan, no doubt. Obviously, some of the younger players who won't be featuring, we need to get them out, getting football, and obviously getting some of their wages covered. The same applies to clubs in League One and the Championship. So I've got no doubt that Mark will bring in a couple of players who will slot straight into the first team. But unfortunately, it may not be in time it won't be in time for Bury, and it probably won't be in time for Brighton. But it's a long haul season. We're just about to have our first game. I don't think people need to be worrying too much about the new signings, but there will be some, and there is some money. And if we get in, if we do well in the cup, I think if we do well in the Capital Cup. And we managed to get through against Brighton, which Newport did last year, so who's to say we can't? That would be a massive bonus to us. But I'm not saying here and now that money will be available. I think because of the financial position of the club now and next season, cash flow is much tighter than it's been in the past few years. We need to be sensible about that. So whereas last year we went to West Ham, earning a little bit of money and invested some of that in players, I'm not sure that will happen necessarily with Brighton. If we do well in the FA Cup, like we have done previously, we spent a lot of money in the January transfer window a few years ago, bringing the likes of Paul Benson and others. We spent a lot of money, and I think that would happen again, but I don't think we do it to the same extent.
Yeah, just finally, Paul, it's 16th season in the league, so that means it's your 18th as chairman, I think. So if you could pick one word to describe how you're feeling ahead of your 16th in the league and 18th as chairman, what would you say? If you could pick one word.
One word. I'm a masochist. Yeah, that's probably it. But all joking aside, you know, it brings with it huge pleasure and huge excitement, huge anticipation, but tempered by a degree of worry, because you know we still have got a big wage bill to pay, and there are so many things that can go wrong during the course of a season, with postponements and with injuries, and we are treading a very, very fine line.
Yep. Hope it's a good one, Paul. Thanks very much for your time.
Cheers, John.